Hey everyone, it's AJ, here with a quick little video in response to the series finale of My Little Pony Friendship is Magic being officially released by Hasbro, or confirmed by Hasbro, I mean. This was based on a essay, let's call it, where some of my loving, don't you dare question that even for a second, but very anti-brony family members made me write on what my life would be like if one day I wasn't a brony. The result was what you're about to hear, even if it's not what they asked for, so I decided to make it into this video, and only now I'm getting to it cause the time felt right. So, My Little Pony Generation 4 is coming to an end. Once upon a time, this may have just seemed like a horror story clickbait that was a future bronies problem, and now we have confirmation from Hasbro. But don't worry, maybe Gen 5 will pan out. However, even with that, even if the best case scenarios happen, nothing is forever. As the fad we were at the start of the decade has simmered down as we head away from something that showed us that if you put honest effort into making something, no matter what stigma it may have, it will be rewarded. Now, I don't necessarily mean the end of the fandom, which I can see continuing as something like the Star Trek and Doctor Who's fandoms. Instead, I want to ask something that was brought up a while back that every brony, especially the creative kind, should ask themselves. Am I still going to make MLP content 10, 20, or X number of years from now? This was brought up to me by a few family members who may not be the biggest fans of what I do, even if for the right reasons. Though usually, this will ruin your life, people will think you're a creep, this and that, and pretty much every other thing someone against the show would argue against. And they're kind of my biggest hurdle I have right now if I ever want to go to a convention. Which, I know since I'm 28 I could just be like, I'm going, deal with it. I'd rather not. I still want and to love them, even if we have clashing views, which ironically is because of the fandom I'm trying to find such a middle ground, for both of us to be happy rather than push them away because they don't like what I'm doing. Sorry, getting back on topic and what this is leading to the subject of this video, one of the points they brought up as a kind of counter argument was, if I was still going to be a creative brony 50 years from now, where do I see my life and this and that? And while at the time I just said no to end that conversation, I'd be the line to say if it wasn't something I hadn't thought of from time to time. That's not to say I won't still be a fan of the show and franchise if it continues the same quality of G4, or of the many animatics, collaborative projects and stories, some of which like Carousel and the Enchanted Library, being among my favorite novels of all time. It's been too much of a large part and influence my life along with such things as Pokemon and Transformers to ever say I won't still enjoy them in the future, along with some of the friends I made who will likely be lifelong friends. No, what I'll be talking about and mostly focused on in terms of making fan fiction, reviews, and dramatic readings centered around the show, and I can't really see myself going indefinitely with it. With that said, I'm here to say we shouldn't panic, because if you think about it, that's not as scary as it may sound if you secretly think so as well. Now for those of you who say you do plan on making MLP content forever, which there's nothing wrong with if you do plan or hope to, but I think even the most hardcore of us can at least agree on this, in that we don't always want to do MLP all the time, every single time. I've yet to meet one fan who hasn't either also been in love with something else like Bendy and the Ink Machine, Undertale, Assassin's Creed, BoJack Horseman, or has never had 100% pony content on their channels if they've been around long enough. However, that isn't about what else I'll enjoy and make with MLP, but why I won't be a creative brony forever, why you should or shouldn't, and why that's not a bad thing for you watching right now. Why? Well, to be honest, even before joining the fandom, I secretly wanted to be a professional writer. Seems odd when most of my content is either reviews or dramatic readings, but I actually had my start on film fiction. However, I'm kinda bad at actually writing, if that makes sense. I have good ideas, but never the ability to properly and efficiently write them out. Then along came MLP in this massive community that welcomes and uplifts all kinds of talent, and I saw it as a way to practice what I wanted to do and actually get feedback on it. Cause let me tell ya, I've learned more on how to write in just the first 2 years of fan fiction than I had throughout most of my high school career. And let me point you to a key word I just said, practice. Because even though I love the show and fandom and what I do, that doesn't say I don't care about the quality of my fan work, but even from the very beginning, I've always seen it more as a stepping stone to practice and to one day do it more professionally. And I know I'm not the only one. I mean, we have fans such as Ink Girls with her original Dragon Princess franchise nowadays, Disney Fanatic has started to write for magazines, Ms. Wubcake wanting to go more professional with her voice acting, and my pal Minty Root being paid to work for the special effects on big Hollywood movies such as Aquaman, along with many artists and other writers I know moving on to more human type stuff. Now, does this really sound so bad? Say you started out creating MLP fan content before doing it more professionally, as opposed to just thinking, will I be doing this forever? What makes me so stubborn to not just abandon the fandom is the fact that we were built on many different talented people coming to get a foothold through this fandom on their own hobbies and interests. And that, if you're on the autistic spectrum or not, and like something that is weird or not in the norm, that is not a bad thing, as long as you don't let it affect your daily life and can act mature about it when it does cross over to the real world. But now with the end in sight, and many others already branching out and even moving on to different things, now it's the perfect time to ask what you want to achieve next. And even if your heart is still set on what you're doing for now, like me, making MLP content, that's okay. And maybe in 50 years from now, I'll make an episode review even if I'm mostly done with it. But I can also see myself having published a best novel, working on my next one and saying, oh yeah, I got my start thanks to a show and creative fandom centered around My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Anyway, that's the end of the script. Probably not what some of you were expecting to hear from such a video, but it's one I hope some of you who may be afraid of change can take heart from. Feel free to let me know if you agree or disagree, where you see yourself in the future, and I hope you all have a great day.